I'm sure you've heard this before. Know thyself. A phrase etched in stone above the temple of Apollo in Delphi, repeated by Socrates, whispered by Plato, quoted by thinkers from Hume to Jay-Z.
It sounds like a quest, doesn't it? A noble pursuit to know yourself. Like it's a mountain you climb, and at the peak, you find clarity, truth, identity.
But what if I told you
that mountain doesn't have a summit?
What if the self is not something waiting to be discovered, but something endlessly created, destroyed, and remade? Today we're going to talk about why you'll never truly know yourself, and why that might just be the most liberating truth of all.
Let's start from the mirror that lies. You wake up one morning, you look in the mirror, you see you, right? Hair a bit messy, eyes still adjusting to the light. Maybe you frown, maybe you smile. But something inside says, that's me. But is it?
Philosopher David Hume once said, quite shockingly, that when he searched for himself, all he could find was a bundle of perceptions. No core, no solid I, just thoughts, sensations, memories, floating in a stream. Try it. Close your eyes for a second. Think about who you are. Do you find a stable identity, or do you find a collage? Are you the voice narrating your thoughts, or are you the thoughts themselves? Eastern traditions have long echoed this idea. In Buddhism, there's a term, anatta, no self. It doesn't mean you don't exist. It means the self isn't some permanent soul or essence. It's a process, like a flame flickering in the wind. It exists, but only because it is constantly becoming. Now, let's talk about the stories we tell. Here's the thing. We humans are meaning makers. We don't just live, we narrate. We stitch together memories and moments into a story, and we call that story me. But stories aren't facts. They're interpretations.
What you remember from childhood, what you think defines you, it's already been edited, reframed, blurred by time. Your self is a memoir written in real time. Sometimes unreliable, always evolving. Psychologist Dan McAdams argues that our identities are narrative constructions. The self isn't something we find, it's something we write. So ask yourself, are you the main character in your story, or just a narrator grasping for meaning? And if the story changes, do you change?
Identity is fluid, and always has been. Think about how you've changed in the last 5 years. Your tastes, your beliefs, your habits. That person from 2019, would they recognize you today?
Ship of Theseus, a thought experiment from ancient Greece.
If you replace a ship's planks one by one until none of the original wood remains, is it still the same ship? Now apply that to yourself. You've shed skin cells, neurons have rewired, memories have shifted. So, are you still you?
In neuroscience says your brain is plastic, it changes constantly. Philosophy says identity is relational, a product of your context, language, culture. Psychology says you are not one self, but many. You're different at work, at home, at night, online. You shapeshift, adapt, perform. That's not a flaw. That's being human.
The illusion of the final answer. So why do we crave certainty? Why do we want to find ourselves like there's some final, true version of who we are, hidden, waiting? Maybe because uncertainty feels like chaos, and chaos is scary. But here's a secret most philosophers whisper and few shout. The search for a final self is a myth. Soren Kierkegaard, the father of existentialism, said, "The self is a relation that relates itself to itself." Translation? We're not things. We're not nouns. We are verbs. Becoming, rewriting, reframing. The desire to be found is beautiful, but it might be more useful to embrace that you are never lost, because you were never one thing to begin with.
Now, let's embrace the becoming. So, what do we do with all this? If the self is a process, if we're not solid, but fluid, if we're not permanent, but shifting, is that terrifying or is it freeing? What if instead of seeking to find yourself, you focused on creating yourself? Nietzsche, ever the provocateur, said, "We should become who we are." A paradox, but also a path. It means we're authors, sculptors, composers of a self in progress. You don't need to find your passion, you can choose it. You don't need to discover your purpose, you can create it. You don't need to know yourself fully, you can love yourself in fragments. Isn't that enough? The fact is, you'll never fully know yourself. And maybe that's the point. The self is not a destination. It's a dance, a river that flows, and in flowing is alive. So next time you feel lost, next time you wonder who you really are, smile, because the one asking that question, that curious voice, that's you, right here, right now, thinking about becoming. Know thyself. Yes, but don't be afraid to reinvent that self, again and again. So my friend, if this made you think or unthink, consider subscribing for more philosophical deep dives into what it means to be human. And please like and leave a comment. What part of yourself have you let go of? And what part are you becoming? Until next time, stay curious.